Happy Thursday, everybody. Here's what's coming up tonight on News Center Now. People love to go to restaurants, right? What if you couldn't bring your kids? There's a restaurant that's trying that out. We'll talk about it.
Interesting. And bariatric surgery. Governor LePage had it, lost a lot of weight. We'll take a look at if it's a good option for you.
There's also a great cause today to raise money for veterans. We'll tell you about that.
That's all coming up on News Center Now.
It's the second to last day of March. Hello, everybody. I'm Lee Goldberg.
And I am Jessica Gagne in for Amanda Hill. And for the second to last day of March, it was absolutely gorgeous out there walking around. Super nice. But just when you thought it was safe to put away those shovels, plan on 4 to 8 inches of snow starting tomorrow, something like that.
Yeah, so it's really going to get started on Saturday, which happens to be April Fool's Day, but this is no joke. Come on, man.
About that, you know, this happens every year in April, and we always act surprised, right? Like, I mean, it does happen. I'm not saying that you have to like it, but some snow on the way here as we head into tomorrow night and Saturday. Here's our storm system. A lot of severe thunderstorm warnings out here as it cranks up, and a little bit of a snow shield. Considering how close it is right now, it's actually going to take until tomorrow evening to move in for the vast majority of us. So it's going to be a relatively slow moving precipitation shield from southwest to northeast. National Weather Service has winter storm watches across the interior. They just recently issued them down to the coastline. Don't think that the coast is going to be a huge issue in this, meaning they should get roughly the same amount of snow as inland locations do, because I don't see a big changeover with this storm. The heaviest snow likely across New Hampshire and into the mountains, where they'll be a little bit colder there. So timing wise, the rest of tonight is fine. Most of tomorrow is fine as well. Clouds increase by tomorrow afternoon from southwest to northeast, and the snow starts, you know, roughly between 5 and 7 p.m. over western and southern Maine, but the real heavier stuff waits until after midnight for most of us in through Saturday morning. It snows most of the day on Saturday before winding down on Saturday night. We've made just a minor tweak to the snowfall map. I'll show you that in a few minutes, guys.
Oh, can't wait to see that.
Thank you, Keith.
Okay, so you go out to dinner, you throw the kids in the car, you get to the restaurant, and they say, yeah, your kids can't come in.
Oh, well, that actually happened at a restaurant in North Carolina. The owner is banning kids under 5 because he's fed up with misbehaved children.
All right, you guys have a lot to say. Tammy loves the idea, says, I am paying for a relaxed adult atmosphere, not a daycare scream fest. Tanya says parents need to understand that while they may be able to ignore their screaming child, not everybody is able to do so. And Judy thinks it should be up to the parents to know when their children are mature enough to enjoy a more adult-like atmosphere.
News Center's Chris Costa asks if this is something diners and restaurant owners in Maine would like too.
Stirring and slicing, drowned out by screaming, could be enough to ruin a meal. But what if young kids weren't allowed at all?
I can't imagine that happening in Portland.
Despite Maine's expensive restaurants, people like Al Judd say banning kids 5 years old and younger just isn't realistic.
I don't know about North Carolina, but up here everybody's pretty friendly.
Even restaurant owners disagree with that policy.
I think there's a fine line. You have to be diplomatic.
Noah Talmatch owns 2 restaurants in Portland and has worked all over the country.
When you open a place, you're open to the public, and that means the public.
According to the Maine Human Rights Commission, there is no statute that prevents restaurants from discriminating against children.
All I said was I slammed my hands on the counter and I said, this needs to stop.
Remember when Marcy's Diner owner Darla Nussbauer yelled at a crying 2-year-old?
Yes, I am.
Even she disagreed with the policy.
She said in some colorful language, I don't want to ban bad kids, just bad parents.
You're all here for the same reason. You wanted to come and have a nice meal. So everyone should be very aware of that, and that's the key word really, is mindful. Mindful of others.
Al says his experience with kids in restaurants has been good overall.
The parents of kids in places like that tend to look after the kids okay, and the experience is not so bad.
So the owner of Timber, Noah, says that there aren't normally a lot of kids, young kids that come to his restaurant, but he says that in the years that he's spent in his restaurant experience, anytime he has a situation like this, he and his staff, they always approach it calmly, but parents usually take care of it and intervene before they have to.
That's what I've seen too.
It's not a lot of fun for the parent either to have a screaming child at a restaurant. Just throwing that out there. So.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, it got a lot of people fired up, so it's something we figured we may as well ask around here because Maine is such a tourist destination, a lot of families, and that was the sentiment today. So many restaurants are family friendly, so not something that seems like would really catch on here.
All right, thank you so much, Chris. Hey, a picture of a car flipped on its roof in Hollis is making the rounds on Facebook. It's been shared more than 2,000 times since it was posted yesterday.
All right, well, as it turns out, there's even more to this story than just that image. So we sent Scoop Ortiz to go get to the bottom of this. What did you find out about this?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So the caption of this photo says that the driver of the car fled the scene and left his pregnant girlfriend, wife, whoever she is, pregnant passenger behind. Now, the woman who shared it, Lorraine, she asked people in Buxton and Hollis to share it, and they sure did. We're reaching almost 2,000 shares since it was first posted yesterday morning. So at first we were skeptical. So we've got a hold of Lorraine's daughter, Jessica Brackett. She says she was the one who took the picture because her husband was actually the one involved in the crash as well. So her husband was in the crash. The other driver hit his car, and then before he flipped over. So today we went to the intersection of Leamington Road and Long Plain Road. Sure enough, there's plenty of evidence of a crash on the street.
You know, what man would leave his pregnant, whoever she was, whether it was his wife or girlfriend or sister or whatever the case may be, behind and to take the rap for something that you did wrong.
But wait, there is more. Trisha Walker shared the post, and she said that she also witnessed the crash and called 911. Now, she didn't want to be on camera, but she told me that the man hugged the pregnant woman when they got out of the car before he took off. Now, Walker says the woman told police that she was the driver, but Walker told police that there was a man at the wheel. So, is this all real? It sounds super convoluted, a lot of moving parts. We did get to the bottom of it. We verified that the story is actually accurate. Now, Buxton police confirmed that a crash happened at that intersection at that time on this morning, or that morning rather, but the police report is not finished, so we don't have all the details. But regardless, the story behind the picture and the crash is true. And we don't know, of course, whether or not everybody, you know, made it out unscathed. As for Jessica's husband, he was not hurt. But as far as the injuries of the other people, we just simply don't know. Yeah,
right.
Thanks for verifying that for us.
That's right.
Hey, if you've ever been to college or known anyone that's gone to college or visited a college, you probably won't be surprised to hear that there's beer drinking that happens there.
Whoa, what?
She's shocked.
I'm not paying for that. All right, what may surprise you, though, is to hear about students who are working with beer and not drinking it. That's also not true. We'll tell you why beer has made its way into a college science lab. Coming up next.
Hey everybody, Adrienne Stein here for News Center Now. The buzz over Maine brews is growing, and soon they'll be enjoyed by people in different parts of the world. Maine Brewers and Icelandic's shipping company Eimskip are partnering to bring suds to Iceland starting this summer and eventually to ports all around the North Atlantic. Now, before that beer gets on the boat, Maine college students will be doing some of the quality control testing, and perhaps not in the way you might think. Forget cracking open the books.
I was really looking to do some research.
Sierra Wentworth,
see if I liked it,
is cracking open a cold one.
The brewers, they send in samples for us to test.
Wentworth is testing beer quality in this University of Southern Maine lab.
I've been with the university 10 years now. 10 years, yeah.
The beer lab idea first started brewing with a class trip to Allagash 4 years ago.
We met the quality control manager there, and our conversation was like, you know, he had all these things that they wished they could do, and we had all the instrumentation to be able to do it.
The students started testing Allagash beer. The buzz began to grow, and more breweries got on board.
It just kind of blew up from there.
Now dozens of breweries from all around the country send in their beer.
It gives a resource for the brewers to answer some of those questions that they've never had the resources to be able to answer through research.
Students look at things like alcohol content, color, and contamination. Maine brewers are hoppy.
We are blessed.
Make that happy about it. Testing here cuts down costs for brewers. It pays off for beer drinkers, too.
Consistency, if you're drinking the beer, you want to have that same product every time.
I'm going to put them on the heat plate and do it.
Wentworth is helping to make sure that happens.
People say, oh my gosh, you're a chemistry major? That's crazy. I'm using in the lab with beer right now, and they're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
And perhaps sampling some of the product along the way. Are you a beer drinker?
I am now.
Well, right, you have to sample the product.
I mean,
right?
if they had this class when I was in school, I would have done my homework all the time.
You may have been a chemistry major, too.
Exactly.
You know, just so for some information, brewers pay about $10 to $70 per test. It just kind of depends on what they want to do. Dr. Benedict says that she's really seen the retention rates go up and more students interested in research on this. And by the way, we do want to mention the New England Craft Brew Summit actually starts tomorrow. You know, craft brewing, major money in Maine, $200 million. Somewhere like that, even more. And so industry insiders are going to get together, talk shop, and talk about ways to expand the industry even further.
Very interesting. Hey, well, speaking of things people are talking about, the storm, it's headed our way. We can't stop it. We watch and listen when you post on our Facebook pages, and judging by all the comments we've seen, you've definitely noticed a change in Governor Paul LePage's appearance.
Yeah, he's lost more than 50 pounds and counting after undergoing weight loss surgery. When we caught up with him for our Day in the Life story, which aired yesterday, he said that it's a decision he is so glad he made.
Should have done it a long time ago. I mean, we had medical assistance, and I'm much healthier. We did it for a good reason, because of health. And I'm healthier than I've been since college. In fact, I'm at my college weight right now. My wife says you can weigh it like you did in college, but you better not act like it.
Since it's working so well for the governor right now, we decided to take a look into the pros and cons of weight loss procedures and what you can expect if you ever decide to bring it up with your doctor. It seems like a quick fix.
We cut off a strip of stomach.
But bariatric surgery is far from it.
Anybody who's ever said this is the easy way out, they don't understand weight loss surgery. It's hard work.
And at Maine Medical Center, it starts with a lifestyle change. Dr. Copine says you have to show you can commit to a wellness plan and demonstrate the ability to make long-term changes before surgery is even on the table. That can be a difficult task and may drive some people away, but Dr. Copine says what shouldn't have you running for the hills is the stigma that has historically surrounded the procedure.
It was shameful. It just was, it's lazy. You should be able to eat less and exercise more. That is so wrong for most people that can achieve 100-pound overweight.
Those people, he says, are often fighting against genetics.
If you have one obese parent, you have an elevated risk of being obese yourself, no matter how thin you seem to be as a child.
What makes you a candidate for bariatric surgery? Dr. Copine says having a body mass index of 40 or more, or a BMI of 35 with other complications like heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, or sleep apnea.
Gastric bypass, we use the same stapler in a different orientation.
Sleeve gastrectomy and gastric bypass are the two procedures performed here, and they do come with risks, such as leaks. But the overall mortality rate is about 0.1%, which is less than gallbladder or hip replacement surgery. Dr. Copine says bariatric surgery is also covered by MaineCare. And even though many people in the state are eligible, only a fraction of them inquire about it.
A lot of the reasons that I'm aware of that people don't come here is actually that they don't know it's an option.
The governor's success is shedding some light on it and showing others that they do have options when it comes to weight loss and overall health. Another interesting thing that Dr. Copine told me is, as it stands right now, if everyone in the state of Maine who is eligible for this kind of surgery sought to actually have it, there would not be enough surgeons to do it. So
I'd like
kind of an
to
interesting.
surgically remove snow from your vocabulary.
Yeah, I wouldn't be saying much then over the next couple of days. I'd be back to that hoarse voice that we had earlier in the week. Yeah, there's some snow coming. Like I said, we act surprised every time it happens. And I see the percentage of Mainers who want it at this point is under 10%, it feels like. But hey, let's start with some positive. 48 right now, 43 in Rockland. So if you want to get outside, it was a really nice day, the best day of the week for sure. and then things will go downhill as we head into tomorrow. A visible satellite showing the high cirrus deck of the storm system already visible here. It's got kind of a large, expansive cirrus deck. It's high, it's thin, it's not going to do anything, but it's coming from this area of the storm right here. So you can see a lot of precipitation with this, some severe weather actually down across parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley. This will all lift towards us by tomorrow night. It'll take a little bit longer than it would appear. You see it already, it's already in New York. You think it's going to be here tonight. It's actually going to be here tomorrow night, fighting some dry air on the front end of it. All right, so let me tell you what I like about this storm and what I don't like about this storm as far as its snowfall production. There hasn't been much of a change in the forecast that we have going out there, just a minor tweak as far as snowfall amounts. It'll approach tomorrow night. This is your 32-degree line, but remember, you can accumulate snow at 33, even 34 degrees, and I think we will do that along the coastline tomorrow night in through Saturday morning. And then that rain-snow line, or the cold air, I should say, collapses even farther south. So I don't think a changeover is much of an issue with this storm. The biggest bust potential, and bust would mean not as much snow and probably a lot of happy Mainers, would be if this low is just a little bit too flat. We're already on the edge of the northern part of this precip shield, so if it shifted down a bit, it would take the moisture with it. We don't think that's going to happen, and that's why our snowfall map hasn't changed very much here. So hour-by-hour forecast tomorrow during the day is fine. Clouds start moving in. It's tomorrow night that we start seeing the snow, and most of that after 10 or 11 p.m. Heaviest snow through the morning hours and through around midday on Saturday. It snows through much of the day on Saturday, but it does start tapering off by Saturday afternoon, and the snow ends on Saturday night. So the only change we have here is instead of 5 to 10, we have 4 to 8 inches of snow. I mean, possibly we're just getting cute with it at this point, but we think this is the best median as far as snowfall, and then 2 to 4 here in through down east, and not much of an event at all across northern Maine. Jackpot will be 8 to 12 down across New Hampshire. Interesting wrinkle, guys, is that some of the meteorologists in Boston all of a sudden have to deal with this storm as it has trended farther south and colder for them. Also, there could be some snow possibly on Tuesday.
Oh, so, wow. Sneak that in, why don't you?
Oh,
any questions?
That was like a hit and run on that one. Okay.
There's some snow on Tuesday.
We're done with you. Raising money for some veterans in Maine when we come back.
All right, welcome back. Today's Brain Drops is about the idea that the ground is too warm for it to accumulate, for snow to accumulate. Turns out that's not a thing. And there are varying degrees of how long it takes snow to accumulate based on what's called albedo. And albedo is the amount of energy from the sun that a surface reflects. So asphalt only reflects 5 to 10, which means it's taking in about 90% of the energy. Grass is taking in about 70% of the energy, and snow almost none. So it accumulates first on snow, second on grass, last on asphalt.
Very interesting.
But I was telling our producer earlier, I was in a snowstorm a couple of years ago in Raleigh, North Carolina. I showed up, it was 65 or 66 degrees, snowed the next day. So there's no such thing as the ground will be too warm.
Right.
If it snows and it gets cold enough, it'll happen. It'll just happen in that order.
And just to be clear, that's albedo, not libido.
Yes, they have pills for low libido,
just
but
checking
not
on that.
albedo.
It's a different brain drop.
I knew that was
different
happening.
brain drop for a different day.
I actually worried that I'm going to mix those up, though. So
maybe never.
I got you.
Okay.
All right, it was great. Please leave. A great event today to raise money in our state for some veterans, and I was super happy and honored to be a small part of it. A Veterans Count Radiothon on the stations of the Portland Radio Group. News Center's Tori Ryan and I were on the radio, as well as music star Don Campbell and comedian Bob Marley.
And 90% of that money went to veterans programs, and 100% stays right here in Maine, so that is pretty cool.
All right, speaking of veterans, a man from Herman was honored today during an American Red Cross Heroes Breakfast.
That's right. Joe Sabota suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder after serving overseas, but he hasn't let that stop him from helping other veterans who deal with PTSD.
For me, it was very tough in the beginning, going from a life of the active military to civilian life. Yeah, I really enjoyed my job, and unfortunately I got blown up a couple times in Iraq and received a brain injury. I do have post-traumatic stress disorder, but you know, I don't let it hold me back. Nothing is ever going to be the same before, you know, combat, but it can still be really awesome. I just finished my first documentary film called Reinforcements, and it's going to launch in May. just bringing the awareness out there for post-traumatic stress and getting the word out so we can hopefully stop this veteran suicide epidemic. I got my word out there on Facebook, you know, that I would be there to talk to anybody that needed help. And I received a call from a staff sergeant from the active Army. He called me and he said, you know, you don't know me, but I just want you to know that I am going to kill myself tonight. And of course, I was sitting in my chair like, oh crap, what do I do? I said, well, listen, man, let's talk. You know, tell me about what your struggles are in life. And a lot of his struggles, of course, were struggles that I had myself. I started talking to him, and he brought up the fact that he had 4 little girls. And I told him that I had a daughter. And I made that guy promise me that night that he would wake up tomorrow morning with his 4 daughters and that he would put the gun away. And he did. He put it away. And today that guy runs a hog hunting trip for veterans in Texas. So now he is helping vets now. And you know, that right there gets me out of bed in the morning, just thinking about that guy. I just want to get the word of hope out there to all combat veterans that, like I've said before, you know, life is never going to be the same for us, but it can still be great.
Such a great, you know, thing to raise money for veterans. It's so important. It's such a selfless act to volunteer, literally give up your own freedoms to volunteer to protect our country. So all the time, whenever you get a chance, whether you have somebody in your family or not, exactly. It's thank yous, it's a handshake, it's a how you doing, and it's just awesome. So awesome, great story, and glad to be a part of it. And thank you to all of our veterans out there. Appreciate that.
Thank you. That's going to do it for News Center Now.
News Center at 5:30. Coming up next.